This is Geoff Welch with This Tiny Empire, and I am here today with my friend who may have lost his sanity, Mike Lund, who is a construction manager with the Department of Transportation here in Fairbanks, Alaska. Hello, Mike.
Hello, Jeffrey.
So to give our viewers here a little insight into why I'm questioning your sanity, I've known you for a very long time, and I'm very proud to count you as one of my close friends. But this last weekend you did something that made me wonder if you were still okay in the head. So
Yeah,
tell me what you did.
so this weekend I participated in this thing called a GORUCK challenge. And basically, like to give you a quick rundown, it is roughly 12 hours, usually at night from, say, 9 p.m. to 9 a.m., covers the course somewhere of 15 to 20 miles, all while you're carrying 6 bricks, which I have wrapped behind me conspicuously in duct tape. It also looks like a package of C4 or something like that. So,
Yeah,
so
something
there's 6
someone would
bricks.
smuggle across a border is what it looks like. Yeah.
Yeah, they say don't dump them in the trash can when you're done. Please unwrap them, otherwise it causes issues.
I bet.
So all the while carrying these 6 bricks, which weigh about somewhere around 30, 35 pounds, and in a pack with some water and some food. So during this 12 hours, you're also carrying around a 45-pound pack. You do it with 25, 30, 35 other people, and you don't know where you're going, and it's led by some Army Ranger or Special Forces, ex-Special Forces person, or somebody from the Marines, or I probably got that horribly wrong, and somebody will butcher me later on
You'll
who
get flamed.
Yes, but you don't know where you're going. You don't know how long it's going to be. I went down to Anchorage, so me and a friend of mine, Steve, we went down to Anchorage, and so it's in an unfamiliar city, and basically just signed up for this thing that we didn't really know what we were getting into, but was great nonetheless. So,
And you did it on purpose.
we actually paid somebody
Yeah.
real money to participate in this.
It was not the result of a natural disaster or something like that. You actually
Not the result of
chose
that.
to
No,
do
I
this.
was not issued a directive by, some important person that I had to go and do this. It was something that basically ended up presenting itself, and somehow, for some reason, I said, "Okay, yeah, that sounds great."
So everything you've outlined there, and we talked about this before you went down because we sort of kidded around that maybe I would come and document. But
Yes.
then I realized it was like everything that I liked the least. We've got being up late at night. We've got being outside. The great potential to be cold because I know there's water involved. I heard about push-ups in the water. Like all of these things are like at the very bottom of my list. And so I declined to even come and document, let alone participate, just because of the basic parameters. But what drew you to this? When you heard about this or were introduced to this idea, what made you say, that's interesting, I might want to do that?
It's kind of funny. Initially, I have to be honest, it was a good deal. My friend Steve found this online, and he was like, "Hey, who wants to do this with me? If we do it before December 31st or some date, we get a 2-for-1." So I was like, "Yeah, let's do that."
It's
I
a
don't know
value.
about this, right? So I was suckered by a good deal.
Aha.
So good job, guys. But after that, that was back in December or January, and have had quite a bit of time to think about this before we actually got started, and it ended up being even before I got started, I was really looking forward to like what I was going to be thinking during this, what sort of social aspects were going to sort of pop up with this. One thing I didn't mention earlier is that this is not an individual event. It's not a race. There's no winner.
Yeah.
You don't even get to win if you do this, right?
Yeah.
Or anything like that. It's they say the whole focus is to get your team through as a group cohesively, and that if you focus on yourself, that is a great key to failure. And I'm really good at doing that kind of thing, like thinking about me, spend a lot of time with me. I'm a favorite person to be around, and so like to go and to do this and to put yourself in this stressful situation and then go, well, how do I put myself aside and think about sort of the greater success of this team to figure out basically how we're going to get through this. And so I was really interested in like what you know, as this went on between December and now, I was really interested in like, well, man, this sounds an awful lot like work. This sounds an awful lot like, not like physical work, but like time spent in the office, right? You work with a group of people. It should not be about competition or being better than the other person. You've all got challenges that you're trying to meet and succeed against together. And, you know, how do you go about sort of being a real person while doing that, and sort of putting your own interest or your own agenda aside and putting the greater good in front. So yeah.
Well, which I love, and I know, again, we talked about that specific component, and I'm interested in your kind of personal takeaways, whatever you're willing to share. But I know going in, so you go down there with someone you know, but you're teamed up with a bunch of random strangers, with a bunch of people you don't know from anybody.
Yeah.
And I think that is an even more compelling kind of thing, because it's not like you went down with your family, you've got this history with them, you guys are all going to rally together. You're there basically charged with saying, how do I cooperate with these perfect strangers and basically say you first, or in terms of like, I'm going to worry about what you need and how to get us all there as opposed to just my own needs, which I would think in a social situation like that where you've got a bunch of strangers, your instinct would be, I need to take care of me first.
Right.
I don't know these people from anybody.
I think there's a difference between, you know, some random social situation where, you know, you're all not working on the same thing together. If you're meeting a bunch of strangers, which in this case I was meeting a bunch of strangers, but we all had a similar task or a similar thing in front of us. So we all had this common enemy, if you will, and that was surviving the night and getting through and sort of meeting the challenges of the person who came to lead this group. And so not knowing everybody didn't end up being an issue. In fact, we talked very little about what people did, because it frankly didn't matter.
1,200-pound log.
If you were in the military, which a lot of people were in the military. I'm not in the military. My parents or my dad was in the military, which gave me some familiarity with it. But frankly, I have no military background, and so and they have no engineering background. You know, from a civil engineering or a construction management perspective, but none of that mattered because we weren't working on any of those things. Here was this challenge that was presented to us. We could all easily understand it and consume it and get behind it and then work towards it. So
what are some key takeaways? What are some things that you, upon completing it, say that was something that was noteworthy for me?
I think for me it was interesting. That through some of these challenges, like you'd mentioned the 1,200-pound log, we had to carry this. Well, we did a couple hours of like physical like push-ups and bear crawls and carrying other people with their packs and all this other stuff, and then we end up going down to the coastal trail in Anchorage and getting in this sort of drainage ditch. I'd maybe call it a septic ditch. It was disgusting, but you're in there and you're trying to like keep your shoes like on your feet and not like stuck in the mud, so you don't have to fish them out. And you're getting wet, and then all of a sudden you're told to stay there while the person leading this, the cadre that they call them, Cadre Adam, goes off on the other side of the trail on the ocean side and picks out a log. And he goes up and picks up this log, and we have to get this log and take it 2.5 or 3 miles down the coastal trail and work as a team to do this. And when setting this up, he set up individual team leaders. And so basically putting somebody in charge of organizing this group, which is very similar to a work situation again, right? And one of the great things with that was that as we proceeded to fail through this, you know, he would give us some advice. What will work for you guys is to not, you know, he would pipe in and say, what will work for you guys is to not all shout ideas at the same time. Everybody has an idea. Say, I have a good idea, or I have an idea, and then go from there. Don't all talk at the same time because you're not going to be able to consume it. Which is something that happens in meetings, whatever. And then the other side of that, so that ended up helping us work through like consuming the different ideas and then saying, well, let's implement that. That's a good idea, but let's try this one first or whatever, and working through that. And so that was a really good, just a really good lesson in meeting and information management, and just that there are enough messages coming at you that if there's some structure towards it, that it can help significantly. Sure. Maybe that doesn't seem like a gem, but it was really good. Really good at the time and under stress, and you've still got to carry this log. Yeah. So what are you going to do? And then the other really great point that came up while we were carrying this log is that there's this team leader in place, and he was great. But in the middle of things, when we would start to struggle, like the first time we started to struggle, the team leader came over and he was trying to lift the log with us. And one of the other guys says, "Hey, team leader, we don't need you to lift the log. We need you to tell us how to lift the log." Yeah. And it was great because it was like, yeah, why would you come over here and do this and then get stuck doing it and ignore all of the other people other than your little bubble now that you're helping participate in? Yeah. And that was a great lesson just in terms of how often leaders get involved in the details, which is a total trap. If you are a leader in your organization, you should be setting direction, you should be setting goals and values, and you should be breaking down barriers for your people to like dive into this and succeed with that, and not getting involved in the details. And like I said, which is a total trap because you get distracted by the details, you get distracted from the goals and vision, and you get stuck trying to make this thing work when maybe when it's contrary to actually carrying the log, right? So that was, I think, pretty impactful. Cool. And the other thing with the log, particularly, was, it's 1,200 pounds is a total estimate. It could have been 500 pounds, which I don't think. It also could have been 5,000 pounds. So if you're going to err on the side of conservatives, I would go with 5,000 pounds. So the other thing with this log too is that we would carry this on our shoulders, and we would switch sides, and there would be people, and we'd line people up, from tallest to shortest. So there was sort of a continued slope of people, and there wasn't anybody with a big gap, or nobody was hunched over too far or whatever. But the one thing that was really apparent to me is that when that log started to get really heavy and everybody sort of started to slouch a little bit, you wanted to sort of say, yeah, I'm really gonna power into this thing and get it up. Yeah. Total failed. You couldn't do it by yourself. Like there was no decision that you could make on your own to say, I'm going to lift this log higher because you don't have the physical strength. Sure. It only occurs when somebody says, all right, let's pick this log up. 3, 2, 1, and the log goes up 4 inches, right? And it's effortless almost. Yeah. All you just needed to do was coordinate your efforts, and it just went right up. And so that was really it's some magic. Yeah, it's good. So
yeah, that's really great.
We did some other stuff throughout the evening that was also painful, also sort of challenging, but. I don't know if I'm still answering your question or if I'm going.
Absolutely. No, you're good. You're good.
But the other takeaway that I got from that is that there were some situations where there was no leader assigned, and we were given this challenge. You were giving this challenge, but we were doing these physical exercises and sprinting and running back and forth and carrying other people and their packs and all this stuff. And we would come over and he would say, everybody, packs above your heads. Hold them above your heads until everybody's got it over their head. Don't rest it on your head. You've got to hold this 45 pounds after you're completely wasted from being out there for 9.5 hours. And you just simply can't do it until somebody says, all right, everybody, let's put our packs at our waists, and on the count of 3, we'll hold them over our head, and we'll be done with it, right? And the takeaway from that is, I think, for the most part, and I'm guilty of this too, is that people are waiting to be led. As a group, in a big, in an atmosphere like that, if nobody's taking charge, you're all thinking that you can do it yourself. And I'm doing it. How come you're not doing it? Right? When are you going to get to be doing it? Because I'm wasting my energy doing this. Well, I can help you by let's do a little bit of coordination here, and we can all get there at the same time. And that was something that just sort of stuck with me. Yeah, a brief sort of thing. So
that's great. Well, yeah, and I love I'm a big fan of social dynamics and that kind of stuff, and I love watching those kind of things. Less about participating in those kind of things. But no, I love watching those kind of things where you see leaders emerge ad hoc, and maybe a leader shows up for like 10 minutes, and they demonstrate leadership for something. They see a need, they go and they solve the problem, or they facilitate the solution, perhaps. And then maybe they're not seen as a leader for the remainder of the time, but in that moment, they saw the solution and they said, "I'm gonna share this. You know, we're gonna get there together." And to see those dynamics where people assume a leadership role or people sort of give themselves away a little bit in different situations, and excuse me, and like I love that kind of thing, and it harkens me back to gym class when I was a teenager, and somebody would do something wrong in gym class, and everyone would have to run. Everyone would have to run back and forth, and the more that people complained, it seemed like the more you had to run, you know. Mm-hmm. And it's like you'd see people sort of emerge and said, like, he's doing this to us on purpose. We have to like rally around each other here. We have to help each other get there. Yeah. Did you learn anything from the pain?
You know, there was only one real thing that was really painful, and I don't know if I could demonstrate it in the small screen, but it was called an elephant walk, where you basically you put one hand out in front of you, and this is your trunk, and you put one hand between your legs, and the other person uses their trunk to grab your hand, right? Yeah. So let's try this out.
I've seen a picture of this.
So I've got this 45-pound pack on, and I've got one hand between my legs, which is going to grab somebody else's. Yeah. So we're basically in a line, right? Like, here's one line of people. This is going to be great later when we watch back.
Super wonderful, awkward video. I love it.
So there's one line of people that is walking and sort of trying to coordinate this walk, and you've still got this 45-pound pack on, and you know it's folding you over, and you're going up a set of stairs, which is easy because you're bent up, you know, and it's no big deal. But when you have to go down that other set of stairs, you're just like folded over, and it was terrible. I won't lie. Like, my lower back was killing me. Yeah. So that was one thing. Mm-hmm. We had to go up and over one thing. Everybody's, you know, shouting at each other and let's slow it down in the front and let's keep it up and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And when we got to the bottom and we were successful and we're like, man, I'm glad that's over. The Cadre Adam comes over to somebody in the middle and says, okay, now do it again, and you're the only person that can talk. Yeah. And you're just like, but I'm done.
But we survived it, and it's over.
And I don't want to do it again. Yeah. But, you know, you're all there sort of suffering together, and, you know, you talk about gym class and sort of, sort of despising, you know, the fact that you're there. And then you remember, no, I don't really have a right to complain about this because I paid money for this. Right? And that was me giving up my right to complain about this. Yeah. And I realized, you know, first off, I had a surprisingly great attitude the entire night. But during that one part that was really challenging, I realized that my attitude is 100% in my control and my choice. Yeah. And, you know, I chose to be there. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people choose to be at their office, choose to be at work. They have other opportunities, other places. A lot of people don't also. Some people just cannot get out of their situation. Mm-hmm. And that's, you know, the situation that they're in. But I think there's a lot of, sometimes there's not enough credit given to the fact that your attitude is in your control. Yeah. And absolutely. that might not be valid for every situation, but it definitely was for that one.
I think it is for most. I really do. I really think it has a huge impact on how we sort of perceive our circumstances. So, okay, so you did it. You survived it. That's all fine and good. Would you recommend it to anybody? Would you?
I definitely would. If you have an office, you know, of 4 or 5 people or, you know, more, and you're looking for some sort of team building activity, I think if people are in relatively okay shape, I think you could do it. Yeah. You know, there were a couple people during this event that did struggle with some of the heavier things because it is physically demanding. Yeah. There were men and women in this challenge, and I think we had 37 people that started, and we had 37 people that finished. Yeah. And the great part about it sort of being not a competition is that when a couple of these people were struggling, to keep up or whatever, it was like, well, great, I've already got one pack on. Give me yours too.
Yeah.
Not a big deal. Let's get to it, and I'll take your pack, or we can make this easier for you, or we can do whatever. But you're not going to quit.
Yeah.
And I think from like the team building aspect, or from the just sort of getting to know yourself a little bit better in terms of the physical limitations that you have, and really what you're capable of.
Yeah.
I was blown away in terms of going 18.5 miles or 19 miles and carrying 200-pound guys with 90 pounds of packs, all of this stuff, and you're completely blown away by this at the end in terms of how much you did, and that you come out on the other end, really just fine. So
I would guess that you would find out how much further away your limitations are than you expect them to be.
Yeah,
you would find that you're capable of much more than you would assume on the surface. So.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, great, Mike. I totally appreciate your time, and I'm joking around about you losing your mind, but I really am thoroughly impressed. I really, really am. That's quite an undertaking, and I think that it's a really cool thing, and I appreciate that you would go through that and then share your insights here with people like me who are too much of a weenie to actually go do it. So I totally appreciate getting the benefit of some of it, even though I have a feeling that the only way to get the full benefit is to show up and slog through the mud. So,
yeah. No, it's great talking to you. Great to share insights, and always enjoy talking to you. So thanks,
cool.
Geoff.
Oh, you're very welcome. Mike Lund, everybody. Have a good evening, and I will talk to you later, man.
Good night.